And good Tuesday afternoon. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner and publisher of What's Up Noop, and was getting a little delays there, so sorry if you sort of preview a couple times. Mr. Frank Prosnich joins me. Hi, Frank.
How you doing? I just want to make a quick correction. This is Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. Wow. Where has the week gone? You know what it is? It's fall. It's, who knows? I'm just confused in what day it was.
Well, what have you, but it's a good conversation coming up. We're the field for Democrats wanting to run for governor seems to be growing by the minute. This morning, Matt Brown entered the race. He's not an unfamiliar name. General Treasurer Seth Magaziner, with whom we'll talk in just a couple of minutes. Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, Daniel Munoz, I think that's what it is, Dr. Munoz, who actually ran last time as well, a young doctor from East Greenwich, is in the race. And of course, we're all expecting that incumbent Governor Dan McKee is going to announce for reelection. And then there's rumors that former CVS chair Helena Folks may join the race. So it's becoming pretty crowded with a lot of really qualified people. So
let's talk to the man of the moment. And the man of the moment is the money man, Mr. Seth Magaziner.
Right, Seth Magaziner.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Hi, Seth. Oh, wait, look, you have your name plastered all behind you. Is that
well, yeah, there's a lot of candidates. You have to know which one I am.
Oh, there you go.
You have to make sure the viewers know, I should say.
Yeah. You know, my first question to you is, what do you attribute? Here we have Dan McKee, who was lieutenant governor, who ended up being ascending to the governorship because Gina Raimondo went to Washington with the Biden administration. You would suspect that in normal times that perhaps, people would take a look and say, here's a guy we can continue to follow as a Democrat, but it seems like there's a deluge of really sharp candidates who are coming out. Why do you think that is?
Well, what I know is that I'm running because I believe that we have an opportunity in Rhode Island to build a stronger, more broad-based 21st century economy in the state that will provide opportunity for everyone. And I think what will set me apart in this field is that I have a track record as treasurer of actually doing big things that have brought jobs to Rhode Island. We led a state school construction program that has put more than 20,000 people to work repairing and replacing school buildings, most notably down in your neck of the woods at the new Rogers High School and the expanded Pell. We have, through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, put thousands of people to work on clean energy jobs across the state and climate resiliency. Through our office, we've helped hundreds of small businesses get loans so that they can expand and hire more people. So whoever may run, I think the thing that will set us apart is that we have the strongest record on job creation and on economic growth in Rhode Island in the treasurer's office. And if we've been able to do all that as treasurer, just wait and see what we can do as governor.
What do you see the growth coming from? I know you've mentioned education, infrastructure, innovation.
Yeah. Well, we have all the ingredients for success in Rhode Island, right? We have the perfect location, natural beauty, culture. We have some very strong economic anchor institutions, but we haven't always had leadership that was focused on building a strong and equitable economy and knows how to get it done. And so as governor, you're right. The things that I will prioritize to build a strong 21st century economy in Rhode Island are education and job training, because the best jobs go to where the best talent is. So we need excellent schools for every Rhode Islander. We need to make college more affordable, and we need to invest in job training programs for those who aren't going to four-year college to make sure that they have good career prospects as well. So education and job training is number one. Number two is innovation. We need to compete in a 21st century economy in Rhode Island. That's where the good jobs come from. And so that means investing in things like the blue economy and building on our success as a hub for oceanography and marine innovation. It means moving to 100% renewable energy by the end of the decade, because the future is a clean energy future, and Rhode Island needs to be a leader, not a follower. And to your earlier point, it means infrastructure, because 21st century jobs need 21st century infrastructure. So what does that mean? It means not just roads and bridges, but also broadband access and more affordable and low-income housing so that everyone who works in Rhode Island can afford to live in Rhode Island. Climate resiliency, a huge issue in the Newport area. We need to do a major overhaul of our infrastructure to prepare for rising sea levels and more extreme weather. So these are some of the things that we're out there talking about. And again, I think the thing that will set us apart is not only do we have a plan and a vision to build this modern 21st century economy in Rhode Island, but we actually have a track record in the Treasurer's office of doing a lot of these things, of getting this work started. And now we need to accelerate it and take it to the next level so that Rhode Island can be a place of economic opportunity for everybody.
Seth, I see Let's Get to Work at least 2.5 times behind you. What do you want people to know about that message? What does that message mean to you?
Yeah, that's what we're all about, right? We are all about making Rhode Island a state where there is a good job for everyone who is willing to work hard. So you don't have to leave Rhode Island to get a good job. You don't have to leave Rhode Island to work in an industry of the 21st century, in technology, the life sciences, construction, advanced manufacturing. That Rhode Island will be a place where whatever your passion is, you can get a good job here in our state and pursue that passion. And I think Let's Get to Work not only means more jobs in Rhode Island, but also means that we have to act with urgency. And this is not going to happen by itself if we sort of putter along and just do what everybody else is doing. We need to act with urgency and resolve to transition Rhode Island to that 21st century economy.
There was a piece on TV the other day where there was the owner of Brood Awakenings and maybe somewhere else. They were talking about needing to close down stores because they couldn't get workers. What's your message to him, and how do we get people back into those kinds of jobs?
Yeah, this is an issue not just in Rhode Island, but nationally, right? And when you look at the data, when you look at the surveys of why many of the people who left the workforce have not come back, the number one reason that people cite is lack of childcare, believe it or not. That it's harder to get childcare than it was before the pandemic. It's getting more and more expensive. And so I think it requires a multifaceted approach, but one of the most important things and best things that we can do to get people back to work is to make childcare more available and more affordable. That's going to be a big part of our plan as we go through the course of the campaign. And not only is it good for young people, to have that education and that socialization early in life, but it'll be good for employers like Brood Awakenings too, because it'll make it easier for people to get back into the workforce.
You also mentioned affordable housing, workforce housing. We don't do very well in Rhode Island, and I know there's a new legislative commission. They're going to meet tomorrow, I believe, with the Rhode Island, the cities and towns. What can be done in the state to improve that? And I know that we look at this, the old Highlight property, the now Carpinato property, and their plan was actually to build housing and business in the same area to make it accessible, affordable for younger workers.
Yeah, well, we desperately need more housing in Rhode Island at all levels. It is a crisis. And there's a few things that we need to do. One, we need more funding to produce more units of affordable and low-income housing. And this is something I know quite a bit about because as treasurer, I worked on the last 2 affordable housing bonds that were approved overwhelmingly by voters that collectively are funding the production of hundreds of affordable units. But it's not enough. It's really just a start. And so, as governor, I'm going to go bigger on more funding to incentivize the production of affordable and low-income housing. But the other thing that we have to do is, funding is important, but it's not enough. We also have to put some pressure, frankly, on some of the cities and towns that have not been allowing development in their communities to allow some development of affordable housing because, everybody's all for housing, but nobody wants it in their town. And that doesn't work. And so, there's only a handful, only 4 or 5 communities in this whole state of Rhode Island that have met the 10% target for the percentage of their units that are deemed affordable. Newport is one of them, but most cities and towns have not met that target. And so I do think that if that continues to be the case when I'm governor, I'm going to put some pressure on the cities and towns and say, look, you need to, each of the cities and towns in Rhode Island need to make a plan for how they're going to get to a certain percentage of their housing stock at affordable levels. And if they don't come up with a plan, then we're going to come up with one for them. And it's going to require, I think, being tough, and it can be controversial, but we got to do it, because at the end of the day, all the housing bonds in the world only get you so far when nobody's allowing any housing to be developed. And it doesn't mean you have to clear cut, fields and forests. I mean, we have plenty of areas around the state that already have some density and are compact, but the towns, again, need to allow that affordable housing development to occur.
To kind of underscore your point about funding, even with the new bond, I think we rank last in New England in the amount of funds that we're providing for affordable housing.
That's right. So we got to go way bigger.
Seth, I noticed when I visited your new Instagram page for governor, let me see here, 4 of the endorsements you've already received are from folks from our neck of the woods. Susan Donovan, who represents Bristol and Portsmouth, Joe Eva Gaines, longtime Newport School Committee, State Education Board, Representative Lauren Carson, who represents District 75, which is Newport. Why are these people supporting you so early? What are you hearing from these people, and why are they jumping on your campaign?
Well, yeah, I have to say I am very excited and very encouraged by the early support that we received. For those individuals you mentioned, who are all great leaders in their own rights, also a number of other community leaders around the state, a diverse slate of endorsers. We just got the first major endorsement of any candidate in the race earlier this week with the State Nurses Union that represents 7,000 nurses and healthcare workers. So we're getting a lot of support. And I think the reason that we're getting so much support, including in the Newport area, is because we do have a track record of producing results, delivering things like funding for the new Rogers High School, the expanded Pell Elementary School, big investments that we've made in climate resiliency and clean energy projects around the state. We've helped dozens of small businesses in the Newport area get loans through our Bank Local program. So I think that what has earned us the support of some of these great leaders is that they've seen that we're not just all talk, that we actually are producing results that create jobs in Rhode Island. And they recognize that because of the results that we've been able to produce in the treasurer's office, we're going to be able to do even more in the governor's office.
Matt Brown, in his statement, said that one of the reasons he's running is we can't have politics as usual. That's also a theme that you have mentioned as well, that the cronyism, that kind of stuff needs to come to an end. And I presume your belief is that exists under the McKee administration.
Well, listen, Rhode Island is everybody who's watching knows, Rhode Island is a wonderful place, but we have had, as a state, too many people up at the State House who have been in it for themselves or in it for their friends, instead of doing the right thing for the people of Rhode Island. We cannot turn back the clock to the old way of doing things, the old no-guy politics that ruled the state for so long. And yeah, some of the stories that have been coming out of the current governor's office over the last couple months are very concerning. Very concerning. It certainly appears that there was a number of efforts in different ways to help people around, the governor's friends and people around him benefit financially from his administration in a way that were frankly inappropriate. And so nothing will stop our economic recovery faster. Nothing will stop our progress toward building a 21st century economy faster than if we as a state develop a reputation for going back to that old school no-guy style of politics. We cannot have that. And as treasurer, I have run our office at all times in an ethical and above board way. And that's what we will do in the governor's office as well, because that is something that you have to do in order to build a stronger economy and improve quality of life for Rhode Islanders.
You came out with something, I believe it was today or yesterday, relative to COVID and some disagreement with the approach that the governor is making in terms of our response to COVID. How would you differ from what he's doing? And are there things that he's done that make sense?
Well, the only way we are going to beat COVID and get this pandemic behind us once and for all is if we have leaders who follow the science and make decisions by listening to the scientific experts instead of just the loudest voices in the room. And so I do have some differences with the way that the current governor has handled the pandemic response because, frankly, it's been guided, it appears, more by politics than actually by the science. I have advocated, for example, for a vaccine requirement for all adults working in schools, for teachers and school employees. You have well over 1,000 unvaccinated adults in Rhode Island going inside of school buildings every day with children who are not allowed to be vaccinated. It's wrong and it's dangerous. And a number of other states around the country have instituted vaccine requirements for teachers and school employees. It's gone well in those other places. Both of the national teachers unions have come out in favor of vaccine requirements as well. And the vast majority of parents that I talk to would very much prefer that their unvaccinated children, if they have to go into school with adults who are vaccinated. So parents are for it. The teachers unions are for it. I don't understand what the holdup is. We did a vaccine requirement in our office for our staff. It worked very well. The Biden administration is doing it for federal employees. Other states are doing it for school employees. Rhode Island children deserve to be just as safe. And the same goes for state employees. When Rhode Islanders go into the DMV or go into, another state office, they ought to have a right to know that they're going into a safe environment. So, look, I think we can't afford to keep messing around on this. The hospitalization rates have risen dramatically over the last month and a half in Rhode Island. We're up to over 100 people in the hospital now with COVID. That is straining hospital capacity already. And we got to get serious about this so that we can get this whole thing behind us. The last thing we want to do is have another round of shutdowns or a return to remote learning, which is not as good as in person. So if that's our shared goal, if our shared goal is to avoid shutdowns and to avoid having to go back to remote school, then let's get serious and let's put in vaccine requirements for schools and state employees, just like many other states have done and just like the Biden administration has done.
Seth, do you have a reason or thought on why it hasn't been done here in Rhode Island?
Honestly, I think it's politics. I think that there's a small minority of people who have chosen not to believe in the science, and they have gotten in the ears of some of the politicians up at the State House, including the ultimate decision maker, which is the current governor, and it's putting people at risk. And so, again, one of the reasons that I'm running is that we need a governor that will actually follow the science and listen to the experts, not just whoever the loudest voices in the room happen to be.
The latest numbers from AARP on their site relative to nursing home residents and staff show a dramatic rise in the number of COVID cases in our nursing homes. Shows that 90% of nursing home residents, not 100%, which shocks me, 90% are vaccinated, but only a little over 70% of nursing home workers are vaccinated. Yeah. How do we address that?
It's unacceptable. So again, one of the few areas on this of agreement that I have with the current governor is he put in a vaccine requirement for healthcare workers, including nursing home workers, that was supposed to go into effect on October 1. And the vaccination rates were starting to rise as a result because these requirements work. But then just late last night, it was announced that he was walking back that deadline on October 1st. And I think that was a huge mistake. Nursing home residents are among the most vulnerable members of our population. They tend to be elderly, they tend to be ill, and nursing home staff must get vaccinated. This is, again, this is not a novel concept here. Other states have these requirements too. Rhode Island should do the same because our seniors deserve to be just as safe as those living in other states.
How do you respond to the claim that, in fact, when these healthcare mandates go in or other mandates, that you're going to find people who are going to walk off the job and you're going to end up with vacancies and not enough workers in our hospitals, not enough workers in our nursing homes?
Yeah. That has not been the experience in other places that have done mandates. That the number of people that have actually left work has tended to be very small. There may be a larger number who threaten to do so, but when push comes to shove, in other places that have done this, that has not been the experience. And by the way, that's true in our office as well. You know, we put in a vaccine requirement in our office, and our vaccination rate went up. We're close to 100% now, and no one quit over it. No one even complained to their union about it. I mean, the requirements work. And now, that being said, staffing in healthcare and staffing in nursing homes, we had shortages even before COVID. And there are some people who have left just because, frankly, they were burnt out, not because they didn't want the vaccine. And so to the extent that we have shortages in some facilities, that is a great use of some of this stimulus money that the state has been sitting on, is to use some of that stimulus money to recruit and hire and retain replacement workers. I've talked to nurses from Rhode Island who have gone to work in other states that are offering higher pay, hazard pay, in order to fill their vacancies. So I do think that, number one, we should have requirements in healthcare facilities, just like we should have it in schools and in state buildings for state employees. But number two, after we do those requirements, to the extent that there are shortages anywhere, we should use some of this $1 billion of stimulus money that we're sitting on to recruit temporary staff to fill those positions.
Seth, was it one thing that came up or a series of things that came up that pushed you to finally make the decision to run for governor?
You know, it's a decision that I've been weighing for a while, talking with my wife about it and with my staff. What ultimately motivates me and what made me decide to run for governor is that I do believe that we are at a really unique time in our state. This is a time, this moment that we're living in right now, people are going to study this for generations and look at the decisions that we made, because we're living in such unprecedented times. We're coming out of COVID, we're coming out of a recession, we're living in a time where there's great divisions in our society, but we're also living in a time where we have incredible opportunities. We have all of this federal money coming in. We have, I think, a renewed spirit of creativity that people are feeling. This is a chance where we could do some really big, special, innovative things. This is the moment that people are going to look back on and say, hey, what did they do to build a state that was fairer and more prosperous and healthier and better than the one that they inherited? So it wasn't a specific moment in time. It was more a series of conversations and a realization that we have to seize this moment and we can't let it go to waste.
You know, I spent a decade as editor of the Business News, and one of the things that I heard from a number of people along the way is that Rhode Island has never defined what its real niche is in terms of business and business opportunity. Is there one area or two or three areas that we need to really be concentrating on?
Yeah, so I don't believe that government is always the best at predicting these things. You know, the creativity and ingenuity of the private sector always finds ways to surprise us. But that being said, there are clearly some areas where Rhode Island could have some competitive strengths if we make smart decisions, right? So one I mentioned earlier is the blue economy. We can build on our existing strengths in the marine sciences, the naval sciences, you know, build on Newark and the URI Oceanography School and some strong anchor companies and Raytheon and others, Electric Boat, build on our existing leadership in offshore wind. The blue economy, or sort of the ocean economy as a area of focus, makes a lot of sense. The life sciences more generally, you know, with up in Providence, with the growth of the Brown Medical School, the potential coming together of the Lifespan and Care New England systems, that could lead to a lot of federal research money coming in for cutting edge research on in the medical field that will ultimately lead to more jobs and companies spinning off. So that's another area of opportunity, I believe. And the third thing that I would note is that although we talk about manufacturing in Rhode Island as if it's a thing of the past, we still have a number of really good manufacturers in Rhode Island and a workforce that is trained for it, which a lot of other places don't have anymore. And so I do think that there's an opportunity to do more in the advanced manufacturing space right here in Rhode Island as well.
I think what a lot of people don't recognize is that our manufacturers aren't making finished products now, but are making the components that are going into finished products. I think that's the majority of our manufacturers. I want to also ask one more point here, which was climate change. Newport area, that's a huge thing. Are we doing enough? Are we using the resources that we have within the state at URI and elsewhere to be able to?
We're not doing enough. And one of the things that I'm going to be proposing soon is a major climate resiliency initiative to help prepare Rhode Island for the impact of climate change. We are the ocean state. We are on the front lines of the climate crisis. The Narragansett Bay has risen 6 inches in the last 30 years. Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more severe. We have to prepare our infrastructure in Rhode Island to meet this reality. And so I am going to be proposing a major climate resiliency initiative, building on the work that we started at the State Infrastructure Bank, where we will do things like all over the state, raise roads and bridges, improve drainage and stormwater infrastructure, restore marshes and sand dunes and other natural barriers to extreme weather and sea level rise. So climate resiliency is an area where we have to move with urgency and we have to be big. The other thing is I do think that we as a state also should be a leader and can be a leader in transitioning to 100% renewable electricity by the end of the decade and to a fully net zero economy not long after that. We can be a leader and a proof point and show that it is possible. Between offshore wind, solar, other renewables, we can get Rhode Island to 100% of our energy from renewable sources by the end of this decade, if we have the leadership that knows how to get it done.
I know we got to run, but just one last quick question. In less than a year, we'll be going to vote. What's the elevator speech? What are the things you want your supporters to tell other voters? What makes you stand out? What should people keep in mind that's easy to keep in mind that separates you from everybody else?
What separates me from everybody else is that I have a real plan and real experience in bringing jobs to Rhode Island, and I know how to transition Rhode Island to a 21st century economy with opportunity for everyone. Every candidate in every election will say that they are the ones who will bring jobs, they are the ones who will improve the economy, they're the ones who will make everyone's lives better. The way that you as a voter tell who can actually deliver is by looking at who's done it. And I think what will set me apart in this race is that I actually have a track record of producing thousands of jobs in Rhode Island. And so we have the credibility to talk about a 21st century economy in Rhode Island because we've started doing that work from the Treasurer's office.
Seth, did we miss anything today?
Oh man, well, we could keep going for hours, but I think for now, I will just say thank you very much. We're excited for the coming campaign, and we're even more excited for what the future of Rhode Island looks like because the future is close at hand. So thank you, everybody, and let's get to work.
Of course.
Seth, thank you. And I know we're going to be talking with you often over this next year, not only about the campaign, but also about the things that go on in the Treasurer's office.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Seth. And oh, look at that, Frank. You got the spotlight. There we go. And that is the first conversation of many that we will be having.
Actually, that's the second. We've done Nellie Gorbea. So we did her a while ago. So we'll get her back as well. But we're going to get everybody on.
We will get everybody on, and it'll be multiple times. in the future or now. These videos can always be found on whatsupnuke.com, on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. And oftentimes you can send in questions. You can comment on Facebook, drop some comments. I see a couple in there from Beth. Beth, I'm sorry I didn't get to it. Chris says, thanks, you're welcome. But we'll be doing this again, and we'll give you a bigger heads up, and you'll be able to submit questions. And this is a live program, and you'll get live reaction. And you don't get this many other places.
And, you know, I just want to underscore what Ryan said about your input on the things that you want to know. That's really important for us, so we can ask those questions for you.
And we did about 60 of these last election season, and we're going to do a whole lot more this upcoming. And we're bringing.
I almost forgot all of that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it will be a fun time. So just about a year away. It's going to go by fast. And we'll be here covering it all. So Frank Prosnitz, thanks for bringing this great chat to us.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. And on behalf of Frank Prosnitz, as well as myself and all of us here at What's Up Noop, I want to thank Seth Magaziner for joining us. Again, SethMagaziner.com. You can find out more about his campaign for governor, more about him, and all that good stuff, events, Facebook pages, Instagram pages, and all that. Thanks for watching.